guys, it's nice to be with you today. We missed a few weeks, so I hope you'll forgive us. Today we're going to do something really interesting and useful, and that's going to be making 40 by 30 cameos and little hearts and stuff like that that are like a base, like a pearl base or whatever, and turning them into like a transfer stone, like they had back in the 50s, where you would see stuff that would be wrapped around a cab. I know when I was working with 1928 a lot and going out there a lot, I used to bring a lot of stuff like that home. And basically it was a piece of rice paper or a piece of tissue that was wrapped around the cameo, smoothed down, wrinkles removed as much as possible, and wrapped around to the back. And it didn't really cover the whole back because it was going to be mounted in a cameo mount, but we'll talk about that too. So anyway, we're going to learn to do things like that, and it's not hard. You can see right here what I did. I used a vintage cab, pearl cab, okay? Right now, I don't have this on the site in case you want to go running over and look for it, but I will tell you, today is March 3rd, 2023. If you put an order in this weekend, you want to ask me for a few samples of this. I have some of my own and enough to share, so I will send you a couple, 3 in your order for free if you ask for them, okay? So, but you do have to have ask for it with an order, and we will do that. Doesn't have to be a big order, but anyway. So, till I get them in stock. But anyway, they're really great to work with, and this is the cheapest way too. They're the cheapest way, this way. And you don't really want to take a really, really good piece and wrap it, because why should you? If you take a piece, maybe it's got a little scratch on it or discolor or whatever like that, you can just go right over it with rice paper and it looks beautiful. As you can see here, we have this one. Now this one's got a little bit of wrinkles in it. That's your issue with this, is trying to do it without wrinkles. This is fine, actually. But it would be nicer if I didn't have this little wrinkle here and this little wrinkle here. So we're going to work on that today and show you how you might achieve not doing that like I did. This one actually came out pretty good. There's just a little glitch down here, but it's not bad. It's pretty smooth. I'm happy with it anyway. This one, I took a piece of rice paper that had a word on it, and I put it in sideways. And again, there are little wrinkles here, but that just goes to the handmade element. And the more you do it, I can tell you, the more you do it, the better you're going to be at it. I mean, I've done this plenty of times before, but I haven't made it a science. If you find that you really love this look and you love changing up stones to make them look like your own, and nobody else in the world has it but you because of the way you do it, it's a worthy project to work on. Just take an afternoon and just make yourself sit there and work at it, and you're going to find you're going to come a long way in a short time. I also did a little heart. That came out not too bad. But the way they look on the back is like this. Okay, you might say, well, that's not so good. Well, yeah, you know, if you want to wrap it better, or what you could do is you could trace it, and then you could Mod Podge something to the back to cover that, and that would be great too. The only thing you have to watch doing that. Now, this would probably be something you'd put in an assemblage, and maybe it wouldn't be mounted. Although we do have mounts that this would probably fit in. You have to watch how much you get smashed up on the back. Like, this here is just probably about as bad as you can do it. I mean, high. You gotta watch getting height on the back is what I want to say. Because then when you go to mount it, it'll stick up funny. Unless you're using an open back mount, then maybe it won't matter. But keep that in mind. Try to stay as tight to the back surface as you can. So if you put something over this, try to get it all put down as flat as you can, so that when you go to mount it, it's not sticking up strange, because that could happen. This one looks like this. You can just kind of see how I bend it over. This one looks like this in the back. So they're by no means perfect, but they don't have to be, unless you want them to be, in which case then you're going to have to do another piece on the back. Or you could even take, Javi and I were talking about this, maybe some white paper or something put on there. But you have to be careful whatever you do, that the glue stuff doesn't show through it, because then it'll look like it's deformed or something. So you don't want to do that. Okay, and then I want to show you this too, and then we'll go ahead and make one. This is what one looks like in a mount. This is an open back mount. So on this one, if I want to keep it in here, it's not glued in. I would have to probably take another piece of paper and put over that because I don't want that showing like that. If I was going to take this out and mount it in something flat that had a back on it, wouldn't matter. So that's up to you, however you want to do it. But, you know, it looks pretty in that mount. This is a little different, but it's quite easy. In fact, it's a lot easier than doing this. What this is you see a lot of people have videos on this on how to put an image on the back of a clear glass dome or lens and then have it come through like a glass camera. Like, in fact, if you go to our website at www.bisouboutiques.com, you will see that we have some new ones that have just come in. Now, those we didn't make. We ordered them to be made. But basically, all it is something applied to the back. But the trick on that is, every time I've tried to do that in the past with other media, like E6000, Diamond Glaze, whatever, there's a whole bunch of different things people recommend. They seem to do well with it, but I never did. I had nothing but bubbles coming up in the back, and it just wrecked it, you know. Well, this is Mod Podge. All I did was I took the paper and put some Mod Podge on that paper, and then I just set this dome down on it where I wanted it to be, let it sit, and then cut it out, let it completely dry. It's covered on the back. What I could do, though, because this is kind of transparent, let me put it in here, you'll really see. It's kind of see-through. You see that? Now, that's really not a bad thing for it to be see-through like that, but you might prefer that it pops more. So if you do, then you're going to maybe want to put it on some white paper on the back. Whoop, you can't see that here. And it shows a little bit more. Or you want to choose some paper that's lighter in nature. This is kind of a grayed down antique type paper, so it didn't show as good. But I just found that with the rice paper, I'm not sure about digital downloads, and I'm not sure about other types of papers and images that you use, but for rice paper, this works great, and you don't get those bubbles. So you might want to keep that in mind in case you want to do an image coming up through a clear glass dome. Okay, feel free to leave questions for me on the video underneath, because we do answer them. So anything you want to comment on, feel free. Okay, so anyway, let's get to it. Let me show you how to wrap one of these. And hopefully I will not be too shaky with the hands, because I really did drink a little bit too much coffee this morning, as usual. Okay, so I'm kind of looking for a place where I like the paper. And this is a paper that we carry. We have like 10 different patterns, and I'm always getting new ones in. So you just go to the tissue paper section of the website under mixed media supplies, and you will find them very easily. So anyway, so what I'm going to do first, I kind of got an idea where I want to put it. So now I have a little bit of Mod Podge put in a styrofoam tray, and I'm going to take my sponge brush. I mean, you might have one that you like better, but I like these things, so, and they're really pretty inexpensive. So I'll move this out of the way. And then I'm just going to go over the cab. I don't want to get on there too thick. And yes, you will get it on your fingers, and that
you can do it.
Your nemesis. Because you get on your fingers, then you know your fingers want to stick to the rice paper, and you can't do as good a job as you'd like. So you're going to need to have a wet rag or some baby wipes or something with you nearby that you can grab, because you'll be using them. Okay, so now I've got this on here fairly nicely. Just kind of even it out. Make sure you got coverage everywhere. If there's some, you can see maybe there's some little bubbles. Don't even worry about those. Those don't matter. Okay, so now, let me put these guys back here. Okay, so now I had decided I kind of like it here. So what I'm going to do to make it easier is I could just put on this paper wrap, take and cut it later, but it's just clumsy that way. So I'm going to do this. Oh, excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. Sometimes, you know, you get that in the morning where you're just going to sneeze a few times. Anyways, I sneezed into my arm. I'm polite. Okay, so now I just want to take this paper where I get that pretty rose in the middle of it. And then I'm going to start smoothing. Now, don't smooth too hard, because you can tear rice paper, and then you got to start all over again. So you don't want to do that. So now it's okay to pick this up. It's going to be a little bit slurpy. Now see, I wished I would have got more on there, but you know what? I think I can pull this off and go over a little bit. So I have a little bit more to wrap with. Let's see. How will this work? You can just kind of tell by smoothing it down with your fingers. Do I have the motif I want to use in the center properly? Do I or don't I? Okay, do I have enough to wrap around the back? Just barely, but I do. So I'm just going to go with it. So what I'm going to do to make it a little easier is I'm going to kind of round off this corner. And you'll find the more you do this, better and better ways of accomplishing what you want to get accomplished. This is what I do at this point in my journey. Okay, so I'm basically here just to throw this idea out there to you and show you how nicely it does work, and just to show you the possibilities of what you can do to take, you know, old beads and cabs and stuff like that and cover them, which we've done the old beads before too. You can cover them and just change them up beautifully. Okay, so now I just have a little edge on that. So what I'll do is I'll get a little bit more Mod Podge. Let's get rid of this. I wanted to leave the white show through so you could see what I was doing instead of taking a piece of, you know, that brown stuff that we use that doesn't stick. Okay, so I'm just getting it in there and on here, you know, so it's going to stick really good. Trying to keep it off my fingers the best I can. You're not going to be able to do that perfectly, but I found that the best thing is, like, if you want to have a session and you want to make a whole bunch of them, is in between. Like, you get one done, get your hands completely cleaned up, like, from the start, and then it'll be better for you. Okay, so now I'm going to just pull this up. And it's not going to quite go over the edge, so I wish I'd left a little bit more there, but it's enough. It's enough. And plus, I'm using a white cab. I've got light colored paper, so you can kind of fake it on that a little bit. So I'm just pulling it over the best I can. I just don't want those wrinkles. And believe me, at some point, you know, the more you work with the see, now if I just bent that over like that, I would have a wrinkle. So I've got to pull that up. What you can do too, and I didn't do it yet, and I can't do it now because I got glue on here, is you can kind of cut into the edges a little bit and make it's something you do in sewing a lot. You kind of like cut into something when you want to round it. I'll show you. I'll do another one. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I just want to get this one to get the idea down, and we'll do one more. Okay, so you can see I've got a little bit there, a little bit there. I could take my finger and just go around. I've got a little wrinkle here. This is my bad one right here. So I'm going to try to do my best. This is bad. This is not bad. This is not bad. Okay. So, you know, just make sure it's under. And that's pretty much done. I will go back before this is totally dry. And you'll want to do this as you're making them. Just go back and, you know, try. Here, I need to get this stuff off me. I'm ready to get it off my fingers because I don't want to tear my rice paper because it's pretty fragile. But I like it. I like rice paper better than just your regular tissue. You know, I always just did tissue. But it was hard to find tissue with a small enough print that looked good. So then I started using rice paper. I'm like, oh, baby, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is my thing. And you can get a lot of stuff out of one sheet of rice paper. You might say, oh, geez, you know, that's like $3 for that. Or $4, depending on, you know, the brand and what's on it and all that, you know. But yeah, you can, you know, never throw any of your little bits away because you'll find ways to use them. You will use them up. So you can see, that's not too bad. And then I'll just keep going back and working on it, okay? So now let's do one more. I want to play around here all day. I've got one more here that's flat. And I'm going to do one more on that paper because it's so pretty. I really like it. Let me find a place that I like. It should be about here. This time, I'm going to cut it a little bit wider so I have more of an edge to work with. And I'm going to show you what I mean by cutting into it, because I think that's maybe a key to making it really work. Okay, so now I'm going to take my, where did I put it? It's probably right in front of my face. Here, I set it over here. Okay, so I'm just going to take and look to see, do I have enough? Yeah, this isn't too bad. Yeah, I'll have enough to do that with. Okay, so before I start to glue it, I'm just going to kind of hold it on the motif that I liked. It doesn't have to be exact, but just kind of in the general place. And then I'm just going to cut around like this. Be careful when you're done gluing this stuff up that you leave it on a non-stick surface, because you don't want it to stick into something and make it ugly for you. Okay, so I've got pretty decent edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now let's see where we're at with this. Will this be in the middle? Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't matter if it's off just a little bit. Yeah, it's not going to be bad. So now what I'm going to do before I glue it, I'm just kind of loosely hold it in my hand, and I'm going to just kind of snip into it. Let me anchor my hand a little bit so the shaking doesn't, especially around the corners, do you want to do this, the rounded corners. But don't cut in too deep, because if you do, then, you know, you could get into so deep that you mess with the front, and then you're not going to like that either. Okay, so just some little snips around the edge. As you work with this, you're going to find out where it's best to put them and what works for you the best. Okay, so now I'm going to Mod Podge this. Mod Podge. And just be sure that you have it on all over. You don't have to worry about those little bubbles there. Okay. So now, how do I want it like this? Okay, so I'm going to lay that down over it. And then I'm going to kind of position it. I've got it off to the side there somewhat. You see, you just have to keep checking to see, you know, are you going to like it? You know, see, now here I got the beginning of a great big fat wrinkle. We don't like that, so take that off and smooth it. Yeah, that'll look pretty good. It's not perfect, but you know, if you look at those 1950s cameos where they glued a picture on and stuff like that, they're not perfect either. Now, some of those were done with special decals, and that's not what this is. Some of them were done where they actually cut all around the flowers and just put the flower down. Now, that's tensia. And to do that properly, you know, that will take some time, but it's achievable. And what tensia means, it's a Japanese word for transfer. So basically, you're transferring, you know, a picture. But we're not doing it like the type where you put it down, then you scrape it off and all this, you know, like you do with old pictures and stuff. There are videos out about that. That's not this. We're wrapping or applying to the surface. So I'm just getting in here and getting, you know, not a lot of Mod Podge, and trying to keep the wrinkles out as you go. You don't want to like transfer your wrinkles onto here. And that's the biggest thing. Like I told you, you get to the place where you're not having much trouble with that anymore, you're accomplishing something. And you're probably always going to have a few, especially on a flat surface. But you just do your best, because it's supposed to look kind of old and imperfect. Okay, so I'm going to turn it to the other side so that I can wrap it. See, if I had not done that, I might have had a big wrinkle there, but I cut into it. So I can just wrap that excess to the back. We don't worry about that. I've got to get my hands wiped off. You want to keep this stuff off your hands the best you can, because then your fingers stick to it, just makes everything harder. And I don't think using gloves is going to help. So, I mean, if you want to, try it, but I don't think it's going to help you with that issue. Okay, so this is down pretty good in the back. So now let's look at the front. Okay, so we got a little one here to smooth. I need a little bit more stuff here. Okay, just a little bit more stuff. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to wipe again because I'm sticking. That's your biggest thing. And really, you know, you can use any paper, but the thicker the paper is, the harder it's going to be to wrap it and get it nice and flat, you know, so. But this is what they did back in the 50s, and I've had a lot of cameos over my time. I call them cameos. They're not really cameos. Decorated cabochons that were made this way. So long as I have most of it out of the surface, I'm pretty happy. But you know, some of them, I'm looking at this one that I just did, and I see it needs a little work, so I'll go back and work on that one when I'm done here. I don't want to waste your time. This is sticking up too. But some of them, if you do get a little crease, don't freak out about it too much, because it almost kind of looks like age. And in this case, that's okay. But if you are very exacting and you just don't want to see any of that going on, then you're going to have to work at it. Okay, so that's the basic deal with this. I was going to go on and try to do a few more pieces, but I don't want to get this too long. I think this is enough for you to just go ahead and work with it. Some shapes are easier to wrap than others, and one thing I found is if you get a really, really high dome shape, then it gets harder, like this one. This one's real high dome, and I don't think I did too bad. See, that's sticking. I don't think I did too bad with it, but still, it was a lot harder. But I would use this. And then when I do at the end, after I've got it all the way I want it to be, and it's all finished up and all that, what I can do is completely bone dry. I can go back and use Mod Podge gloss over the top. And I'll have a little bit better look to it. But one thing you do have to remember with Mod Podge, it can be a little bit water soluble. So you might prefer to have a little bit harder finish on it. If you do, I would recommend using one of these guys and a really, really light coat. I mean, super light coat of UV resin. And then stick it into the light box and let it cure. And then that'll take care of that for you. And it'll look great. But if you want a real soft look, then the Mod Podge would be what you want to put over top. Okay? And you'll just put it on the same way as I showed you. Just brush it out. Nice and even. And you're good. That's what I did on these. This one, I think this one has 3 coats. Here, let me put it right here. This one's got 3 coats. But it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to go ahead and put a little bit of UV on it either. It may be good. But yeah, those wrinkles are what you want to work with. But in time, you'll just get better and better at it. Okay, so I hope you'll try it. And like I told you, if you don't have anything to play with, if you're putting an order in this weekend, which would be like March 4th, 5th, 6th, 2023, you can just ask me, hey, can I have a couple of those cabochons that you were playing with in the video last Friday? And I will give you some, just a few, just to try it, you know. And then I will have them on the site later, because I usually have mixed lots of them, different sizes and stuff, but I don't have them on right now. So, but I do have some extras, so just ask me. I hope you enjoyed this. I think it'll be useful for you to change things up a little bit. So let's stop here for today, and maybe next week we'll take it to the next level. Have a great day. Bye.